Hold the meeting to order, and then we will do the, let's do the pledge, and then Mr. Moore, if you could do the prayer for us.
It would be my honor.
Okay. So, we'll start with the pledge. So, attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time together. Lead us, guide us, and direct us, Lord, as we consider the economic development for Pryor and the surrounding area. We thank you for this opportunity. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Williams.
Okay, our first item is approval of the minutes from June 13th, which was our regular meeting. That is in your packet if you'd like to look through those, and then I'd accept a motion to approve.
Move adoption.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Darla, if you'll do the roll.
Okay, Sordahl,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Durr,
Yes.
Moore,
It is.
Yes.
Miller, nope, Anderson.
Yes. Our next item is approval of the minutes from June 17th, 2022 special meeting. So we'll look at those in your packet, and then we'll entertain an approval.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Darla, if you would call the roll.
Williams,
Yes.
Durr,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Sordahl.
Yes.
Are there any petitions from the audience? Mayor, were you aware of any?
Not aware of any, sir.
Okay. Our next item is discuss and possible action regarding mayor creating a support letter contributing Pryor Creek support in the countywide Safe Routes to School Action Plan. This letter is for the federal Safe Streets and Roads for All grant opportunity and is brought to the EDTA by Mays County Hope's TSET Healthy Living Program.
So I will be talking about that today. So we partner with the Mays County Trails Alliance, which, as you all know, one of our goals is to actually implement the Mays County Trails Plan. And so, as we all know, it's going to be millions and millions of dollars, so we have to take pieces as we can as funding opportunities arise. And so we have been super blessed and fortunate to be partnered with a man named Denny Blind, who works for a group called Olson. He was actually super influential in the Northwest Arkansas trails, and so we're super excited to just have that partnership. And he let us know about this federal grant opportunity that just came out, and it is, like it says, called Safe Streets and Roads for All. And so real quick about what this grant is, essentially it's a two-part grant. The first piece of it is called an action plan grant, and the next piece is called the implementation grant. If we can have a federally approved action plan grant through this program, that puts us in a shovel-ready position to apply for the implementation phase. So this time next year, hopefully we'll be, if we can get the action plan grant, we'll be eligible for that implementation. And with that said, because of the way all the partners are happening, it's going to be multi-jurisdictional. We are going to be eligible for up to $500 million in the implementation piece. So it's super imperative that we can get this action plan piece going. And so with that said, what the project we're wanting to go after is called a Safe Routes to School Action Plan. And so as most of you all know, the schools in the county, there's several schools on a highway, and all those schools actually are aligned with the Mays County Trails Plan. And so several of those will look like off-the-road trails. Here in Pryor, I'm sure it would maybe look like, updated paint and crosswalks, but of course, all of that will get figured out with the community. So if we can get this grant, Denny's group will be able to come in and meet with the schools and the community to make sure that the plan is what the community wants. With that said, we need to have a stellar grant application, and as you all know, grant applications, they score higher when there is proof of collaboration. And so we are approaching every jurisdiction in the county to create a support letter. Marty and I will also be approaching the superintendents for a support letter. With that said, I just want to plant a seed right now because Denny's on vacation, and so we haven't found out how much the plan is going to cost yet. He can spit them out pretty quick because of his experience, so I'm hoping to get that in the next couple of weeks of how much this plan will cost. With that said, this is an 80-20 match grant. So Marty and I have already met with the county, and nothing's official yet. We're just planting seeds right now. But Marty and I will be presenting to the county for them to be the main applicant. The reason why that is because this is a reimbursement grant, meaning that you have to spend it first and then get reimbursed on a monthly basis. So we're going to need someone who has that type of money, which is going to be the county. And so, like I said, it's not official, but seeds have been planted, and this is just a seed right now being planted because we're going to come back to you guys and let you know what the numbers are. That way we know exactly what needs to be in that support letter, and we are going to try to figure out the logistics as far as how much money each jurisdiction needs to hopefully have to participate in this, because we do have that 20% match. So hopefully it won't be a burden on all the entities if we can divide and conquer that. So with that said, we are going to be presenting to all the jurisdictions, and we just need the city's support. I believe we're on the city council agenda to get that support letter as well, but we knew that this is a piece of economic development, so we wanted to bring it to your guys' attention.
Mr. Chairman, if I might interrupt, I think it would be appropriate that this letter be created by EDTA and then go from EDTA to council. I mean, it'd be signed by mayor, but it needs to be created by EDTA. That shows the support of the citizens to do that.
I agree.
And I think if it's created by us, that needs to be signed by our chairman.
It could be signed by chairman, but that actually would need to be signed by mayor normally on those grants. So perhaps
Right, the one that
perhaps
comes
both.
from the council would be signed
Yes.
by you. The one from us recommending it to the council, I think would be signed by our chairman.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So if we could amend that, I think it would be appropriate.
So we are amending that to action regarding the EDTA creating a support letter and forwarding it to, signed by the chairman, forwarding that to the city
To city council.
council.
Yes.
Okay. Darla, do you have that? Okay.
So when's the deadline on this grant application?
It's due in September.
Okay, any other discussion?
20% is $100 million.
He's teasing.
I take it you would need a motion on that.
Yes, with the amendment.
I would move that the EDTA create a support letter urging the city of Pryor to contribute to the Pryor Creek's support for the countrywide Safe Roads to School Action Plan. Said letter being approved and signed by the chairman of the EDTA, recommending to the council of the city of Pryor issue an appropriate letter with the mayor's signature.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Darla, if you'll do the roll.
Dirk,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Sordo,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Okay, the next item is the report from Ms. Hawkins on the upcoming chamber items.
Thank you. Much of what I could not find my notes of what I talked to you about last month. So there may be some repetition, and much of what we're doing right now is what I talked with you about last month, because some of them are really long-term projects, and they're just ongoing. One of the new things that we have done from the tourism perspective and getting word outside of Pryor about some of the things that we're doing, and it's going to be set up so it won't be just us, but we can also work with Jenny on some of her events and things going on, is we signed a contract for a year for the electronic sign on First Street. We've been watching both the one out by Walmart as well as the one in town, and we think that the one in town actually holds people and holds their attention longer. So we're able to change it also every week if we want to, and it just gives us another outlet. We know the paper and the PIP for area, information, and much of our intent is to get information outside of ourselves. So we're going to try that, and it's probably going to be a challenge to track it, but we'll do the best we can to see how well it works.
If you come up with a really clever ad to put on there, like Melton's, where it says, "Your wife is hot, better call Melton's," I think that will hold
You think
people's
that's the
attention.
direction we should be going
That's
to
the
sell
direction
Pryor?
you should take.
Okay.
Do you get residuals from Melton's?
I do. That's clever. That is clever.
It clearly got your attention.
It did.
We are meeting with, and talking with Grand Gateway about a couple of projects that we would like to go forward on. We're not ready to talk about them publicly right now, but I actually just met with them again this morning. We have the concerts coming up, and they're selling, one of them is selling way over the top, Rocklahoma.
Which one would that, Rocklahoma is? Is that
They're both
because-
selling very, very well, but Rocklahoma, and I think I did mention last time I was here, that one of the things we're also really excited about those two concerts, it's obviously a lot of work to put two of that size on within a 2-week period. But there are people who are coming in from out of state, and there are people who come in from out of country for Rocklahoma especially. But there are some now that are coming in and they're going to both concerts, and they will be traveling in the area and region between the two. So that's great for our economy, I think. And so we're trying to build that more. And the other thing we've done is had some video clips made that will be shown between the acts and during the concerts to drive people into town to promote our restaurants. And pretty much until now, and I don't think that we know that people aren't going to come and buy gifts for their house and things who are going to a rock concert, but we do have other businesses in town that we think, and downtown especially now, that we think we can drive people to. And so we just want to make sure they know that they're here. And we turned over the shuttle service. We had done that, the chamber had done that for a long time. And we turned that over to AEG. And so I'm working with them on that to make sure that we will have the shuttle service running throughout the concerts to get people in. If you don't have any questions, that's about all, except I was on Facebook yesterday and I happened to run across something, and I just wanted to talk with y'all about the value of it, because it seems that there's some questions about why the city of Pryor would join the Tulsa Chamber of Commerce and the Futures Program. And this is something that we have welcomed for a long time. The situation is Tulsa Chamber has the money to hire really smart people in different areas that we may have some information on, but our knowledge is very shallow. Theirs is deep. And they are amazing to work with. And the value, so for the city and the mayor, as well as the Pryor Chamber, and Jenny, if she would want to use them, the value is so much more than what it is to join. And they reach out. And one of the things that's good for me is it is a regional chamber, so there are town chambers and communities from all over Northeast Oklahoma that are also a part of it. And we get together once a quarter to just share information on what we're doing and what's going on. So I didn't know if any of you had seen that and heard the kind of chatter on it. But we certainly want to encourage the city to go forward with that membership.
The Tulsa Regional Chamber and the Futures Program is something that we've been a part of in the past, and there is a subscription to that. So I think what you're speaking of was perhaps a Facebook message that said, "What the heck is that?" And so the participation in that gives the benefit to Pryor Area Chamber of Commerce, but also to the city and to the county.
It also gives benefits to the chamber members as well. So I have experience with this with other chambers that I've been part of. And the Tulsa Chamber is a nationally known chamber for its structure, for its assets and resources. And what I have found personally with other dealings is the fee that they charge for that membership is very minor compared to the abundance of resources. They're almost overwhelming with how many resources that you have that do go as far down as your membership in the chamber has benefits from some of those that they can utilize. So I agree with you. It's a necessary thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you. Main Street?
Hi, guys. So mine is going to be less about what has happened previously. I know we talked with Adam about how the EDTA can help with any of our efforts going forward. And so pieces of that in the future we're going to be approaching you with would be items that our community could use, I know we could use at Main Street, that we don't necessarily have updated numbers for or updated reports for that we could use in grants. So examples, it wouldn't necessarily be this, but example that Adam had would be specific traffic counts for downtown or parking studies, things like that we don't have that we see as an issue. And so just keep that on your radar that in the future, those are going to be things that we'll approach the EDTA about as far as needs from you guys. And I think that was a great point that Adam brought up, is that could really help a lot of people more than just our organization. And then on top of that, trying to set ourselves up for the funding opportunities and the grants that we have coming, working with Ricky. That's one thing that we're going to be tackling on the near future, is pulling the reports that he has and getting strong statement items that we can use in our grants. That way we don't have to reinvent the wheel if it's something that he's already done. And then identifying needs based off of what he might not have, what we might not have, and other places might not have. So that's coming. As far as grants, on that note, you guys know we received the TSET one. Our contract began with them July 1, so that's in deep with all the requirements that they have, and we've been collecting all the support from the other community partners that have been able to be the matching portion for that grant. So everything that encompasses that has been working. And then also the transportation grant opened up, and that opened July 1st. I know that was kind of in limbo of when it was going to open, and some dates were thrown out, and then it was always changed. So that's something we've begun. We're meeting with Larry, and if any of you guys want to come to see if there's anything that you could contribute or help with, Wednesday at 2, to get some of the items out of that TAP grant that we specifically would need from you guys, including support letters in the future and different things like that.
Would you refresh our memory?
Yes.
Regarding the transportation grant?
Yeah. So it kind of backs up to the TSET grant. That's was the first portion of phase 1 funded through TSET and the other community partners for the matching piece. That is about $203,000 total. And then we are going to go from there, and that kind of set us up to apply for the TAP, which is an 80-20. So they would do 80, we would do 20, whereas the TSET was 50-50. And you guys had already approved $140,000 for the 20% piece on that. So we already have that taken care of. All that's left is just writing it and making sure we get the support letters and everything in order. And then that would complete the rest of phase 1. And then Go ahead.
What are we going to do? I'm just trying to
That's okay.
visualize again.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the process, but the end state. What are we going to spend this money on?
So it is for our streetscape plan that we launched. We have phase 1, and PDG nailed out all of the items, including things for infrastructure. Everything down to brick pavers is in that. So that money would be spent specifically on that phase 1, which would be Graham Avenue and Adair Street intersection. Things in that, I don't have the full list, but things in that include working with MUB. We have to get new light poles, and I know that's a ways out, but we haven't got there quite yet. But and then the pedestrian crossing where it counts down, where it's safer, bump outs, brick walkways, greenery, trees, the irrigation for those things, redoing the drainage and guttering system, coming up, getting back up to ADA requirements as far as the domes that need to be redone, crosswalks, even just the new road, new concrete, sidewalks, and I'm sure there's things I'm missing, but those are pieces, wayfinding, things like that.
And we're going to do all this with $200,000?
No, the 200,000 is for just to get us started on phase 1. And then the TAP is to complete that, which would be about, I think it's like 700 to 800,000. And that would be to complete phase 1. And so in just that intersection, that was what PDG projected to the cost be when they laid it all out. Mhm.
So the TSET grant satisfies part of the monies that we match with a TAP grant. That's, I just looked it up, Transportation Alternatives Program. So we've applied for the TAP grant, and so that opened, you said, this month. Right, so the TSET grant satisfies necessary requirements for matching, as does some of the other things that we have done through Main Street, like the brick pavers and the monies that have been committed from our downtown renovation part of our bond.
Yes, so yeah, the TSET will pay for getting us started, and then the 20% portion is where that 140 comes from out of the account that we have set aside for Main Street.
I have a clarifying question. So the 140, from my understanding, I thought the streetscape first grant, TSET grant, would count as that matching, and then we wouldn't have to touch the 140, but is it different now, or?
It could. It said that it depends on how the timing is, because the way that this TSET, or not the TSET, the TAP opened up, we wouldn't actually get funding until April of next year.
Okay.
And the way that the TAP, the description on how to write it, is we can't write for anything that's already been spent in the past. So if TSET requirements us to spend that money to get it started prior to when we're awarded, I would need to double check on that. But even if not, we have that 140 that's set aside, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then I just had one more question. Because I worked on the TAP grant before years ago, and one of the prerequisites was a letter of intent. And I haven't got a chance to read this year's yet, but I know like one community I was working with, they didn't get it just because they didn't get that prerequisite in. Does it require a letter of intent this year? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it does. Yeah, the intent to apply, and then technically this isn't fully, so the way that it is from July to September 30th is whenever we get our intent done, they actually meet with us and they'll be like, okay, this would work, this wouldn't.
Awesome.
And then the 30th is when they end that period, and then they have a deadline for like when the actual fulfillment of the application is after that, but I don't remember when that is.
Okay.
But we still have that 3-month or
Right.
2-month, whatever it is, plan to, or time to have those discussions with them and get the letter of intent and stuff like that. So.
Awesome. So sorry, this is my last question. Because I did help Shoto get their TAP grant, and one thing that we were able to do is the ODOT people were able to come and do exactly what you said, saying, this is a good project, you want to look into this. So do we have the ODOT contacts scheduled to come, and would any of us be allowed to just
Yeah, you could.
be a
Yeah.
fly on the wall?
They're not scheduled, but yeah, you totally can. Yeah,
Okay,
if you want
cool.
to, whenever we get those, I'll let you guys know. And
Awesome.
yeah, and then just come and, I know that we've already done some legwork, or PDG has, with the plans, and they've already contacted them to make sure that it would be applicable to be able to
Perfect,
get
yes,
this
that's
grant.
right.
So every plan that we have with our streetscape, we've already got the ODOT okay.
Awesome.
So it's basically a formality if they would come or
Right.
visit with us and that sort of
Okay.
thing, so.
Sounds good, thank you.
Any other questions?
So the grant has not been awarded yet, I take it, the 700,000.
Right, right.
When, kind of like Darrell, I need to catch up.
Right, that's okay.
When would you anticipate that decision being made?
So the timeline they set up, letters of intent due September 30th, and I don't think that they make their decision until April of next year. That's why the timing with the T-set is kind of, we got to figure out how that plays out. But, so we're talking like it'll be next year before we even know if we have that 700 piece yet. So it's just timing. They have a lot of time to review, and they have a board that reviews it, or a committee that reviews it, and, because it's a big chunk of money they give out.
It is a big chunk.
Mhm.
Obviously, if there's anything needed
Mhm.
from this trust that can assist to persuade them
Yeah,
to hand over that big chunk of money,
yeah.
you'll need to let us know.
Yeah, this is me telling you it's coming. We just, yeah. I'm gonna meet with him, Wednesday at 2. So, like I said, if you guys wanna be there and be a part of that, I'm gonna fine tooth comb it again, the application, and make sure we can get everything on agendas. That way, when September 30th rolls around, we have everything that we need. So,
Well, thank you. And since Barbara brought up that Facebook post, I'd like to add something in there that I think the flowers downtown are necessary. Brought up in the same post.
I know. It's just, people just don't know. If you're not in it, you don't know.
Right.
Right.
And so it's just an education piece constantly.
But don't let
Yeah.
some of that get you down on the work that you are
Exactly.
doing
Yeah.
downtown that is part of your group. And I will add to what Fred said, you know, he started this a few months ago with what does everybody see the EDTA becoming? And I've talked with you a little bit, but, you know, some of that information, the studies, or working with Mr. Hayes to funnel some information to where you have traffic counts or walkability studies, which I think are gonna be huge with any business that comes into Pryor. Those are the kind of feedback that we definitely need, I think, and to know what we can utilize those funds for, that maybe we have some more flexibility on saying, no, we want to do this part of town. So
Yeah.
get that feedback to us.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
I just want to piggyback on what Adam just said, because I like to be a good steward of our funding, and so walkability studies, whenever I was working with ODOT years ago, they have a template of a walkability study that we can conduct ourselves free. It's totally free, and that's like the actual template that they prefer to see. So walkability study, we can for sure hook you up with that and create a little committee to get that done, but definitely like traffic counts and stuff I don't know about. But just FYI, we don't have to spend money for walkability
Yeah.
studies.
I think that would be helpful for even what we're getting ready to do for TAP, honestly. So
Yeah.
if that's something that could be put
Yep,
together
I can
sooner.
send it to you, and
Yeah.
then we can go from there to see who can do it for us. And that would be like someone of us.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that would look better too if,
Right.
not the group that's helping write it does it.
And that's what I mean. I mean, I
Yeah.
think some things coming from this committee or this EDTA can help with structure and all of us telling the same principles when we go talk to someone.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
No, I'm just gonna add on what Adam said,
Okay.
the fact that you can keep those flowers looking the way they do,
Gosh.
in 100-degree temperature and 110-degree heat index, probably you will welcome in the first phase the irrigation system I think you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, and I agree with Adam, I mean, it does add to the visual when you come through Pryor to see that.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can keep them, I mean, you must be getting a lot of help.
Yeah.
To keep them looking
This
like
year.
they do is pretty.
Yes, so that's kind of been a labor of love. Last year, just a couple people were the ones that did it. And then this year, we are working with some like community service groups. And then also each business has agreed to adopt, most businesses downtown has agreed to adopt a couple of them. And then we kind of go back through with like oh, that one's a little needy, which there's a few right now. It's been so hot. But yes, yeah, thank you. That's it.
Well, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes,
Yeah.
great work, thank you.
Okay, our next item is report from Economic Development Consultant Ricky Hayes. Mr. Hayes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, trustees. Hope everybody's cool and calm. I have a small fracture in my back that came on July the 4th, and then we weren't celebrating. I fell into a skid steer from the top of my creek. And just got on Medicare this year for the first time, having turned 65, and realize now that I guess they know when you need it, when gravity begins to affect you in negative ways. But I appreciate your patience with me. I'm a little bit medicated, but I'm going to try to get this across pretty quickly. The Echo Access team just landed at Tulsa International and are on their way to Pryor. The whole team, not only the grocery team, but the finance guys and a couple of the other team members as well. And they'd like to meet with Mr. Ritchie shortly after this meeting, and then the mayor and I think will have lunch with them. They're very excited about both of the projects that they have land under contract for in Pryor, especially the downtown project. And it was a pleasure to work with Jenny. We're just getting started, and we're pulling data for her. The traffic count information is absolutely critical. And one of the things that I'm excited about is the effect of these concerts on the cell phone data about Pryor Creek, because what they do is everybody who comes in here from out of town that goes into Walmart or goes into one of your other national retailers, that data is collected, those cell phones are identified, and the home location of that SIMS card is tagged, and it looks like Pryor Creek's trade area is international in some cases. So we're excited to see how these two concerts, Born and Bred and Rocklahoma, affect that cell data, which we hadn't paid attention to before now, but somebody advised me the other day we ought to look very closely at that, because it appears that the Pryor Creek is got an extraordinarily large trade area because of those folks coming in from out of town. And so they're excited. The Echo Access people are excited about the projects, not only the retail and mixed-use project here downtown, but also the light industrial project that is pretty close to downtown. There's also about 3 additional projects that are being discussed with Kevin Vanover and folks at Mid-America that would end up creating about 300 to 600 new jobs for Pryor Creek. So obviously everybody's excited about all the good things that are happening. We've worked with several developers, both on residential and retail sites, working with a hotel owner on the south end of the corridor. And he wants to, or is willing to sell. I don't know if we can get his price and the price that the private sector's willing to pay to line up, but we're working on that. Also saw the Cherokee donation, which I thought was very significant, and we're working with Brian Hunt, who's the Cherokee real estate and development head, about another project for Pryor Creek, and don't have any feedback for you yet on that, but that's basically it. We're excited about the Echo folks. I hope we get, they'll be here through Thursday, and today's visit probably won't be the only visit to Pryor Creek. We'll probably be back another couple of times. That's all I have. I'm happy to entertain any questions you have. Pleasure always being with you.
My wife's gonna ask me, when's that grocery store gonna be built?
Well, it's in progress. They're finishing up the financing. There's a $100 million line of credit that will be used to roll out 10 of those grocery sites. The building is about $7.5 million. And in the grocery, and I did not know this when we started this project, but it has become very evident to me that the grocery business, if you just build one 20,000-foot grocery store, the cash flow is very lean. If you build 10 and include all the cash flow of the 10 stores together in one organization, there's the ability to create some serious revenues, not only in sales tax, but profit for the private sector as well.
Yeah.
Mr. Ritchie's been invaluable, and in his help and the mayor and Jenny and everybody, and especially you had a meeting with the architect, I believe, that the architect thought went very well. I hope you did.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
Good.
Loved working with them.
Good deal. Any more questions, Mayor?
I would just say that to the EDTA that the architect that's here, this is a private company who is wanting to design what we need. And so meeting with different folks and asking questions, what do you need?
Right.
And I think that's admirable, and it's very good that they're wanting to invest.
Vision is and what your vision and.
So EDTA's representation with Ariana on that, with that architect is very good.
Mayor, should I discuss the building you and I?
The Castle
spoke about, or is
Theater?
there another, is there another
That's,
item on it?
that's the next agenda item, but you have had some influence and tried to market that building, and I think as a report from you, I think that would be
Okay.
appropriate.
The mayor and I have spent considerable time discussing the old Castle Theater building, and as anybody that works in the retail world realizes, the right intersection means everything, and that's certainly the right intersection. That's a great corner at Elliott and Highway 20. The building, though, as it sets, is hard to market to the folks that I talk to because, A, they can't see any parking for that building itself, the way it sets. And like I said, the intersection's great for a number of uses. It's my opinion that in order to make that spot really hyper marketable, we've got to control both the metal building to the south and the empty lot to the south. And it'd be even better if we could get the two houses and a couple more of those pieces all in one track. Does that make sense? The way it sits, it's hard to develop because there's just not a lot of room there. The building sits, it literally sits right on the road. And, you can look at an aerial, these properties to the back are going to be critical in whatever goes there. And I'll be happy to elaborate a little bit more, but that's, it's a great building. To restore it would cost a great deal of money. And I think we're going to have to add some dirt to it to make it marketable, where we can get very aggressive with it. But
We've had, as I recall, we've had two potential clients who would have talked to us about perhaps owning that. And that's what they have come to the conclusion about regarding the parking, regarding just the space there. And so it has gotten some attention.
Yep.
And the comments were, yeah, if we could have those lots down Cherokee Street, and if we could have some of the property there on Elliott Street and really make that corner, that would make that corner really valuable to be able to generate sales tax revenues and be able to create action there, so.
great signalized intersection.
Yeah, I don't have a plat. You have a picture there in front of you. I think those metal buildings you're talking about immediately to the south are property that belongs to the Pryor schools.
Yes, that's what the
And we are going to be utilizing that property. Those buildings are coming down, and there's new buildings going in there from our most recent bond issue. So I can tell you that property will be unavailable.
Yes. And I think in our discussions, some of these other owners are not really motivated.
Yeah, and I think.
How far down is that metal? Because there's a metal one right directly behind
Right.
it. This one,
Yes, sir. And then this empty lot, and then the folks we talked to.
Does the
wanted to
school
go
have this
on
one?
down.
I'm not sure. I
Or-
know all of this is school property.
yeah.
The internet says this is a school.
That's what I
These
thought. And we're gonna be utilizing all of that comes into play in the most recent bond issue
Yes.
that was passed. And so that, I have no idea about that, little shopping area there, who even owns that. Then there's lots beyond that that are vacant, that would be for sale, but with, just so everybody knows, the school property is going to be on the list.
Well, Mr. Hayes, I appreciate you coming in,
Thank you very
especially
much.
with your injury.
Well, you can work, you can stay at home and be sore, or you can work and be sore, so
I
if I
think-
stay at home, my wife she'll have other things for me, you know what I mean?
I think my question for you would be, would you be willing to come back in the near future to have another conversation with the EDTA about various things that we can do, similar to what we talked about with these
Absolutely.
ladies, about studies and things, even if it required us in an executive session so that you could more freely talk about those
Yeah,
things that
we
you're
can
not
get into
ready?
far greater detail,
If you would be willing
Absolutely.
to do that.
anytime.
Okay.
We just need to be an appropriate executive session. which
Correct.
We can talk in executive session, for things that are very limited,
Yes.
so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mayor, your next item for you to discuss is the Castle Theater.
Yeah, most of your packet has information in it regarding the Castle Theater, and I'm glad, Jill, you're here today. Jill was on a task force that was formed back in, I think, 2015, somewhere around there, and she and Zach Doyle and a few others participated in that. But in 2018, the first thing up on in your packet was a presentation at council meeting, and that was on November the 6th in 2018. And it was talked about the project description, and this is information that that task force brought to bear at a council meeting. And so you have the council meeting piece there, and then behind that you have the project description, and there's some conceptual drawing there. There's also a page that has at the top of it for immediate release. That's Oklahoma's 2018 Most Dangerous Historic Places. That's also information that task force brought. And that's a few pages long. On the back page of that is listed our Pryor Castle Theater, and gives a little history about the theater just in that little snippet there that's on that page. After that page, you see an item from Kelly Construction that is from 2018, February 2018, and he comes with a kind of a total of revitalization. Obviously, those numbers are not good now. Next pages, you find an item from Air Heat Systems, from a lighting company, from SJ Plumbing, and then a petition that was signed by many regarding support of the Castle Theater being perhaps restored. Behind that, you find the council action from 2017. That's when that task force was created. That was Sean Penley, Wayne Jones, Zach Doyle, Sue Mayhew, and Jill White, or Jill Sherman now. And so that's from that council meeting. And then behind that, you find an engineering report for the Castle Theater, and that was a roof study that was done in March of 2015 that is fairly complete. So this is the information that I have in the file regarding the Castle Theater. That's the information that been able to dig up and be able to, that we have, looks like we'd be able to retain since 2015 anyway. Something that I think might be appropriate would be for EDTA perhaps to listen to what citizens have to say. And again, Jill, I'm glad that you're here today. You could probably speak much more eloquently about this than I can, but to be able to hear citizens comment about our Castle Theater and perhaps give us some direction over time. And my goodness, there's been a whole lot of time go by. I wouldn't want to see too much more time go by, really, before we kind of decide to try to do something with Castle Theater. So I'm seeking direction from EDTA in this regard, and listening to citizens, trying to find out what direction do citizens want to go regarding the Castle Theater.
Do you have any recent photos? I mean, in this report, you see things like massive hole in the roof and water from 2015. That's
Yeah, that hole's still there.
7 years ago, but I mean, what is the
Yeah.
inside? How much worse has it gotten?
Yeah, you don't want to go inside the place.
No.
It's replete with black mold. There are holes in the roof. There are all manner of wildlife that's growing and multiplying in the building.
Nice.
And
I mean, I know
honestly, if any of us owned property right next to the Castle Theater, we'd be raising Cain about, with the city about following our own rules regarding, regarding code enforcement. But
at
the last.
least 600,000 in 15 is $1 million today.
So,
Plus
I
whatever
looked
else is
for it,
worse.
I asked ServPro 2 years ago, year and a half ago, something like that, to go in there and to take a look and give me a quotation on just cleaning the place up. And that cost was somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000. And I've looked for that and not been able to find that quote. So that, Adam, that's the most recent, that I've got. And we'll find it, but we're still looking for that. So if it was up to me, I would hope that the citizens would want to give some clear direction to us about what we do. Citizens are pretty well divided about it.
Well, it's pretty apparent. It just needs to be torn down. If anybody has, feelings for it, they can get a rock out of the wall. I mean, I went to numerous dances there in the late 60s and early 70s. We had a wonderful time, but as Ricky pointed out, it has no commercial viability because it takes up the entire lot. There's no parking.
And we were just told that the school is going to utilize that.
Well,
land
the
behind
other
it.
end of the block, I mean, the
Immediately
school-
behind it.
The school owns the building immediately behind it?
Street.
And
On
the
that
two
whole street.
houses? and-
Yes, well, not the
Okay.
house, but with that same street before you get all of that where we have,
Right,
maintenance and all that right now.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
those middle buildings.
Right.
Those are all ours.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
so-
The metal building that's immediately, that's that far
I think that's
behind
ours.
the castle.
I think that's ours. I think he.
Really?
That's ours.
And he said that. should
I
be
don't
the
think so.
schools.
That one's owned by Stafford, I believe.
Yeah, that is not school property.
I'm
And then
still
the
done
two,
with Ricky said,
the two rental houses, or two houses are not school property.
but you go behind that, all the.
But yeah,
middle
sure.
buildings are coming
Well,
out.
you've got about the south third of the block along Cherokee.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, so unless we have eminent domain and condemn the personal property, real estate owned behind the Castle Theater, it has no value. And it really needs to be torn down and cleaned off and go from there. That's my recommendation. No, sorry, you can't speak.
Yes.
I just wanted to, just side note, put that out there, if the decision is to be made to tear it down, I know that Main Street has discussed wanting to take some of the rocks and
Sure.
using it in the streetscape plan for
Yeah.
signage and things like that,
Right.
so.
And it can be
just wanted to-
incorporated into the park right across the street from here. And, you know, we need to harvest anything that's salvageable from a legacy standpoint, like in particular, the rock facing. But other than that, I mean, are you kidding me? Spend $1 million trying to clean it up and there's no parking and, yeah.
I agree. I mean, that's a third of a new pool, or a quarter of a new pool, depends on which quote.
Right.
But since we have somebody here from that original committee, if it's not putting you on the spot, Jill, would you like to speak about it at all?
No, I'm not prepared at all, and I don't compose the city's, that's, I'm not.
No, and that's not what I'm asking for.
For the public.
Your opinion.
But my opinion was we thought maybe if we could say,
And this is
did all
taken
that
over
work,
the
for
general.
all of those people from the county did that work pro bono.
And we have
That
to do
didn't
this
cost the
for
city a dime to pull that report together. And that was out of the intention to, because the Castle Theater is a part of Main Street, it's in that Main Street corridor. It is a historical aspect, and we're supposed to be looking at how do we save some of our history. But we didn't act on that, we didn't put any money on that. And now to restore to this point, where's the money? It could have been part of bond, we don't have that money either. So to me, it's more a financial decision and then to take some of that rock or somehow build a monument so that we can preserve some of the history there. But the practicality of restoring it doesn't make much sense. That's my personal opinion.
And that's what I was asking for, just so we're clear. And I kind of have the same sentiment as Jill and as Mr. Moore, and I think as Fred, that it's almost more of a hindrance today to development of Pryor than it is something good for it. We could spend $2 million there, or $1 million, or whatever, and have no parking, have the same elevation issues. You know, we could go back as far back as roughly 96, 97, when they came through and four-laned 20, and something should have been said then about, you're destroying this building, you need to buy the whole thing from the city, and you take the black eye for tearing it down. I don't know that we're not just kicking a can
Down the road.
down the road further if we start having a bunch of opinion pieces.
Well, and right now, I mean, I don't even know that it's our decision to make, obviously.
Well, it's not. I mean, we could make a recommendation to the council.
And I think that's what Mayor's asking for, is a
Well, we
recommendation.
can, yes, but I mean, my point is, obviously, this is city property at this point in time. And, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I think it's been unusable for a number of years. And the expense to do something with it, I mean, again, you're not gonna find anybody who really wants to use it, because even if we've got a few of the properties to the south, you'd have to get a hold of those properties, get ownership, and I don't even know if that's gonna be sufficient parking to utilize this side of the building. And if this is city property, I'm assuming right now it's on the list that's being insured by the city of Pryor and everything else. So right now, it's kind of an albatross, and it's just costing money.
As the mayor has described it, it's really a significant liability
I would not want any of you guys
as it sits right now.
to go in the property.
It's gonna cost you a significant amount of money to demolish the building, to take it down to dirt, which may be the ultimate solution that is arrived at. But to spend that kind of money that it looks like it would take to renovate the building, clean it up, renovate it, put it in serviceable condition, bring it up to code, and to what end would you be doing that? What purpose would you use it for? Public meetings? You know, we've got a fairly nice facility out at the fairgrounds that's utilized a lot. My experience with the use of the expo center out at the industrial park is you find a lot of people willing to utilize the building, but not a lot of people willing to pay for it. And I think that would be, you know, the same for a meeting, another meeting facility. You've got a nice one out at the fairgrounds that's utilized, quite abundantly, I think.
We also have on our radar to, at some point in time, renovate our Graham Community Building. And we have some ongoing repairs that we're doing there, but that's one of the things that future bond proceeds will fund.
Which we probably have an obligation to do that with the Graham Community Building because of the donation and how it was made to the city and having to have an ongoing meeting place there. But as far as, and I think Larry brings up a good point, not only, we're insuring this cost, and it's potential liability. I mean, I don't do this type of, Daryl, what's the appropriate term, an attractive nuisance? Bring somebody in there and somebody gets hurt. We probably should have torn it down a long time ago.
So Mayor, I think that what our recommendation would be is a recommendation that it has no economic viability for the EDTA to look at it for development, and that at this point, given its significant deficiencies, that it should be demolished, and any pieces of it that may be used for monuments or other uses around the city should be explored, but that the deposition of it should be to be demolished and removed.
Is that the form of a motion from the chair?
Well, that was,
It's not on the,
but it's not on the agenda, so I don't know that it's
not an
appropriate.
agenda item, but,
We just have discussion.
yeah. So I'll take that.
Is the sense of the EDTA.
Thank you. Mr.
You're
Moore.
welcome, yes.
Adam would love to show up at your meeting and explain all that.
Thanks, Fred.
Anytime.
Gift keeps giving. But I do think that EDTA would be interested in, or potentially could hold some of those meetings for ideas for what to do with those
So,
stones, if you thought that was.
so last year when I put in the budget to destroy the place, and I got a few calls about, from concerned citizens that, well, if you do that, I'd sure like to have that sign. Or if you do that, I'd sure like to have, some of that rock or whatever. So perhaps Main Street.
Did I just do that to you by raising my hand and saying I need the rock?
No, it has value.
Yeah.
It does, and whoever would be engaged to take it down would have to have that conversation with ahead of time. What can be
That's correct.
saved from this, or how can you do this? I mean, we just took down the old Roosevelt building. I mean, we had people come running just to grab bricks from it because they'd been first through sixth grade there. Nothing organized, but, it would have to be whoever's demolished, it'd have to be somebody, here's what we can save. Probably make it more expensive on the demolition, but you'd have to weigh the cost of what you could do with that against that.
But I think it would be much less controversy for you to have demolition on there than $2 million to repair it.
Sure. That's the case.
So,
Thank you for your help. I appreciate it.
okay, anything else on the Castle Theater? Okay, our next item is an update regarding the Cherokee Nation funds, but it may be appropriate to table that since we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow.
Yep, I was just gonna let everyone know that, yes, June was a crazy busy month, so we do have a scheduled meeting tomorrow afternoon. And I just want to be super clear to everyone on the intent is, we know that if you're not, like Jenny mentioned earlier, if you're not in this grant world, then you don't really know much about it. And so our intent for this meeting is to discover the needs, be able to say what's the low-hanging fruit that we can organize a volunteer group to meet those needs without having to go through all this process of stuff. What is eligible for grants, and what role can the city play in helping fund any piece at all? So it's an intent to get organized and help equip those who are in charge of those entities to be able to meet their needs. So just want to mention that. But yes, tomorrow afternoon, we're meeting about it.
Okay, and I believe nobody has any reports because we were waiting on that.
Correct.
That meeting. Our next item is review of financial report. And Mayor, I didn't notice that in the packet.
Yeah, Mr.
so-
Chairman, there's really not any change, except that on Friday, there was a check signed for the $50,000. And so that money goes today over to the Fund 98. And so we'll see that on the next financial report.
Thank you very much.
And then in the new budget, there's another $50,000.
There's another $50,000, yes, proposed in that new budget.
And so my question would be, at some point in time, be appropriate to have some type of an agenda item for this trust to address with discussion and possible action, so we can start talking about how, as a trust, we want to utilize those funds. Because we were talking whether it's grants, whether it's loans, whatever it is, but we need to have something so we can put some program in place.
Correct.
Strategic planning.
And I will say that from the last city council meeting, I believe the budget was tabled until, I don't remember the
August
meeting,
2nd.
August 2nd, because there was some clarity about waiting until the end of June to get the final numbers, and I believe state code does not require the budget to be passed until the end of June,
But we know,
or
Well,
end of August. I'm
Until the
sorry.
end of August.
so we know for sure we have 84,000.
Correct.
So,
I was just speaking to the next 50. So any other questions on our financial? Okay, our next item is an economic update from Mayor.
At this point in time, I think what's front and center is the Echo Access folks, and I'll be meeting with them this afternoon, and also Mr. Ritchie be meeting with with them. I continue to meet with developers about developing land around in Pryor city limits, also in some of the outlying county. The most recent meeting that I had was Friday on that, and so it was a new developer looking at perhaps investing in Pryor. So that activity is still strong. And all I can say is that regarding the hotel property that Mr. Hayes referred to, that's for sale on our South 69 corridor, they're very interested in trying to sell that, and we have some retail prospects looking at that, and really all I can say about that at this time. So,
Okay, thank you.
y'all have any questions for me?
Doesn't look like that. Mr. Crisp?
No
anything?
report.
No report.
I never get to say that in my meetings, so I just finally want to say no report.
That's why my meetings go so slow.
Any unforeseeable business? Okay, there is none. Then we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, roll, please.
Moore,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Dirk.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, guys and ladies.